Robin Fenty, better known as Rihanna, is an icon. Looking back at her career history, she was, in some shape or form, very present in the public eye and on the charts nearly constantly for over 10 years. Having a major release every year from 2006 all the way to 2012, she was a staple in the pop sphere, being the girl of choice for every feature on a variety of songs, ranging from Maroon 5 to Jay-Z to Coldplay to Shakira. Being used to a Rihanna release every year meant that once she finally took a break, the wait would feel that much longer. And while we're currently in the longest gap between Rihanna albums in the history of her career, I vividly remember the first Rihanna Drought. After the release of her 7th studio album, Unapologetic, in 2012 and spending most of 2013 promoting the album, 2014 was the first year since 2008 that we didn't get a proper new Rihanna album or single. The only musical release we received from her that year was a guest appearance on Shakira's song Can't Remember to Forget You, which served as the lead single from the latter's self-titled 10th studio album. Aside from that, 2014 was the first Rihanna Drought that we'd ever experienced. And as I said, going a year without a major Rihanna release after having one every year for the last 9 years was weird, to say the least. Although compared to the drought we're experiencing now, a year feels like nothing. Anyways, Rihanna wouldn't stay away from music for too long, as she returned in early 2015 to kick off the R8 era. 2015 was an interesting year for Rihanna, and not in a bad way. She released 3 major singles that year and was clearly gearing up for the release of her highly anticipated 8th studio album that would come to be known as Anti. But the first 3 singles released from that album actually didn't make the album at all, being scrapped entirely. The Anti-era was essentially reset in January 2016 with the release of the new lead single Work featuring Drake. But why scrap 3 great songs, one of which became a top 10 hit? Why throw out songs that still relatively fit the theme of the album and were otherwise well received by the public? On January 24, 2015, Rihanna released 4-5 a collaboration between her, Kanye West, and Paul McCartney. It was Rihanna's first single since the final single from Unapologetic, Jump, which was released exactly 1 year prior. It was Rihanna's highly anticipated comeback single at the time and somewhat out of left field to many. Rihanna's lead singles were generally known to be big, upbeat, catchy pop songs like Umbrella, Only Girl in the World, and We Found Love. But 4-5 was a departure from all of that, being an acoustic folk soul track with stripped production and emphasis on raw vocals. Rihanna spoke about the track, saying, "The thing that made me fall in love with 4-5 is the juxtaposition of the music and the lyrics. When you read the lyrics, it's a completely different song than what you were hearing. The music is easygoing, but the lyrical content is very loud and in your face." The song debuted at number 54 on the Billboard Hot 100 and eventually peaked at number 4 on the chart, becoming Rihanna's 26th top 10 hit. She performed the song live for the first time alongside West and McCartney at the 57th Annual Grammy Awards on February 8, 2015. On March 26, 2015, Rihanna released Bitch Better Have My Money. It was the complete opposite of the previous single, being a trap song. Critically and commercially, the song didn't do as well as 4-5. Many critics considered it a step down from the previous single, and while the song managed to break into the top 20 of the Hot 100, it never rose higher than number 19. Despite the song's reception, it's one of my favorite Rihanna songs and a fan favorite as well. I'd honestly put it in the top 10 of her entire discography. Rihanna would perform the song for the first time at the 2015 iHeartRadio Music Awards and would later appear at the 2015 BET Awards to share the trailer for the song's music video. The video was released on July 2, 2015 and was notably rated MA due to its graphic violence and nudity. It had a bit of controversy when it first came out as well. Worthy of note, the video was the first age-restricted Vivo video to reach 100 million views. It was also highly ranked on many year-end lists. American Oxygen was the original 3rd single from Anti, being released on April 14, 2015. The song was another interesting departure from the norm for Rihanna. Being inspired by Bruce Springsteen's 1984 single Born in the USA, the song is a patriotic dubstep ballad about a new America and the pursuit of the American dream. While admittedly out of left field, I actually adored the song. I remember everyone hating on it when it came out, but I had this one on repeat actually. When put into the context of Rihanna's life, the song actually makes perfect sense. She's a girl from Barbados who left her home to come to America and chase her dreams. A patriotic song such as this one being sung by a black female gives it even more weight. I think this is such an underrated gem in Rihanna's catalog, and it deserves so much more attention. The song was praised by critics more so than Bitch Better Have My Money. However, commercially, it fared the worst out of the 3 singles she released in 2015, peaking at number 78 on the Hot 100. I personally adore this song just because it shows how Rihanna can fit herself into any genre and subject effortlessly and pull it off. And that can be said for all three of the songs that I mentioned. I love this single run so much because it showed range. It was a perfect display of the different facets of the artist that is Rihanna. It was the perfect intro to an era, in my opinion, which makes it even more confusing to me as to why all three singles were scrapped. But that brings us back to the big question. Why were 4-5 Seconds, Bitch Better Have My Money, and American Oxygen ultimately scrapped from Anti? I've searched for answers for years to this question, and while nothing concrete has ever come to my attention, all evidence points to one man, Kanye West. Kanye explained how this collaboration with Rihanna on 4-5 Seconds came to fruition.
Have that. And then Rihanna heard it. I'm executive producing Rihanna's album, and she heard it, and literally she was not going to be satisfied until she had this record.
And looking at the producer credits for all three of the singles, we see that Kanye indeed co-produced 4-5 Seconds, Bitch Better Have My Money, and American Oxygen. Seeing this, it was clear that Kanye was originally supposed to have a pretty big hand in Anti. However, Rihanna would later reveal via a Twitter DM message of all things that Kanye was in fact not executive producing Anti. So what happened? Well, we don't know. Using context clues, however, I can assume that Kanye was supposed to executive produce Anti. However, things fell through. More than likely due to scheduling conflicts and the fact that Kanye was also working on his own album at the time, 2016's The Life of Pablo. Rihanna appearing on the song Famous also lends credence to this theory, as they probably worked together on that song during the period of time when she was working on Anti. And while this explains why Kanye didn't ultimately produce Anti, it still doesn't explain why the aforementioned three singles were omitted from the album. As I mentioned before, I think the songs fit perfectly on Anti, so saying that there was a change in direction for the album doesn't make sense to me. We may never know the real reason, and while the songs didn't make the final track listing of Anti, they are still performed regularly by Rihanna, so I guess it's a plus that she still acknowledges their existence. So perhaps not all was lost. Hey pretty people, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing and checking out some of my other videos. I love music, I love pop music, I love pop culture, I love R&B music. I also love video games, I also love anime. I love a lot of things. I just like to talk about what I like to talk about. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and yeah, and I will see you guys in the next video. I love you all so much. And while we're currently in the longest gap between Rihanna albums in the history of her career, not counting the Black Panther songs, I vividly remember the first Rihanna Drought. And while we're currently in the longest gap between Rihanna albums in the history of her career, I vividly remember a time where we had that doesn't even work right. Jesus Christ. Okay. After the I hate it here. The only musical release we received from her that year was a guest appearance on Shakira's song Can't Remember to Forget You, which served as a lead single from the latter's self-titled oh my god, me.